Hello, I am Fishiv. Welcome to my first video. I know, not a great hook, but I wanted to make this video because I've been seeing a fuck ton of hate towards VRChat online, and I feel like a lot of it's kind of unwarranted. Um, Many people only see the extreme or the strange sides of VRChat because, that's what gets the views, that's what gets publicized. So I want to share my personal experience, both the good and the unfortunate small parts of the bad. This matters a lot to me because VRChat is a social platform, obviously. It's made for socializing, obviously, creativity, and having a place to escape to. And honestly, that's what it was for me. I don't want people to be turned off of something that could potentially help them just because they've only heard of the negative side. So, just for some backstory, I came out in December of 2021. That was when I was 15. At the time, I was fighting severe depression and social anxiety. And, even after the lockdown from COVID was lifted, I continued to isolate myself, even skipping school for weeks at a time. I don't know how I passed, to be honest. But in September 2023, I started watching VRChat content creators like adhd, also known as Zeal, Thrillseeker, and the Virtual Reality Show. The first video I saw from adhd was an interview about someone who had dissociative identity disorder, and I'd first heard about DID from Criminal Minds, and they had done like a whole season on it. I thought it was super interesting, so I did some research into it, but until then I'd never heard a first-hand account of what DID was like. I love learning about people and hearing their unique stories, so Esley's interview style was something that was really catching to me, so I started quickly watching a ton of her videos, and eventually I found one of her latest videos, which was Saving Lives in VR, the VRChat Trans Academy, and that video was like, whoa, there's other people. So that same day, I joined TA Discord. Seeing that video made me realize, there's a community of people who felt the same way I did. And, as cliche as it sounds, it made me realize that I wasn't alone. Especially since, at the time, I really felt like it. I think that having a place where I could talk and really be heard helped me significantly. Being stagnant like I was would only cause my depression and my social anxiety to get worse, and it would continue to hold me back from who I wanted to be. So, about a month later, I bought a Quest 3. Setting it up on my computer was a whole ordeal, but that's an entirely different thing. Stepping into VRChat was it was shocking. It's entirely new experience. It's something that you don't think would be as cool as it is until you actually try it. It was really surreal. It was totally vexing, and I'm it's kind of amazing what technology can do. The home world that you first spawn into can be really confusing, especially at the time. There wasn't a tutorial really or anything, so there wasn't a whole lot of information for new players. This has changed since, but I mean, my experience. How I used VRChat was kind of weird compared to most people at the time. I always avoided public lobbies like they were the plague, and I kind of just chilled around doing my own thing. A lot of my early days in VRChat just had listening to their conversation. I was too nervous to join, but every once in a while, I was invited into the conversation, and I was able to have fun. I went to the Trans Academy occasionally, but I was pretty nervous to interact with people there. I was too nervous to interact with people outside of the Discord, so instead, what I genuinely did for about a year straight was just go play chess for a few hours. I met some really, really cool people there, and I highly suggest joining the VRChat chess club if you like chess. I can't really remember a whole lot of my first interactions with people, though I was always quieter, so I was more naturally drawn to chill and relaxed people. I'd never felt unwelcome, though as a new player trying to interact with people is just difficult because of the sheer amount of trolls. There's a small kind of segregation between players, mainly divided by rank. The longer that you play, or the more stuff that you upload, the higher a trust rank that you get. So visitor, new user, and user, good 80% of the time, they're gonna be a troll. Especially if you don't talk or are or desktop rather than VR. So imagine like me, who's like super introverted and who is mute, just impossible to talk to people. Especially like it's impossible to get other people's attention without them just ignoring you. And because of that, I kind of felt like I was in a strange little limbo. I wasn't doing anything but existing, but being mute and low rank kind of, made me invisible. It kind of hindered my experience at first, but luckily, depending on like how much you play, you can rank up to known user within a few weeks. Most people who have played for a good portion of time have low ranked users' avatars off, so it's a little bit more difficult to identify if someone's like on VR or a desktop and not. In my personal experience, most low ranked desktop users have been trolls. Finding avatars is a little difficult though. You do have to kind of try avatar worlds or avatar search worlds, though the efforts pay off. For me, being able to find an avatar that let me present myself as a version of me that I couldn't show in real life was so validating and felt amazing. Though I use a public avatar. I genuinely love this. Like, I've used this avatar for the last 2 years. I love it. Go check out Corn. They make amazing avatars. They're a little unoptimized, but they're great. And I highly suggest you check out some other YouTubers' videos on VRChat culture. Because you can definitely just pull up a mirror and stare back at yourself and think, wow, that's literally me. I'm literally her. For the first year, I stayed mute, and I only used the chat box to talk to other players. I had a lot of anxiety because my voice didn't sound feminine. I felt as if it was like better to hide my voice to keep up appearances to friends and not break their mental image of me as a girl. Though, honestly, I had a good time, even though I wasn't talking. Using the chat box helps slow down conversations, and it kind of helps you experience the moment rather than like rushing through the conversation. And being mute doesn't save you from the "yeah, it's probably a dude" accusations though. You'll find them almost anywhere you go, especially in public lobbies. My voice needs a lot of work, and I wish I had started voice training earlier in my transition. And I say this because I think it'd just be funny to prove these people wrong, It's like, "You're a fucking dude." And you're like, "Yeah, no, I'm not a dude. I'm not a dude. I promise, trust." And then, every once in a while, you'll find people who just accept you. They don't question you, and they just enjoy your conversation. I've always found that those moments stuck out more than others, And if you're one of those people who I'm trying to convince to start playing VRChat, use the block button liberally. It's there to protect your experience. These people are looking for a reaction. Don't give them one. It feels kind of weird talking about this 2 years later, since the VRChat environment has changed quite a bit over time. There's certainly a bigger divide between players and trolls now, more than ever. This can be like kind of a video of its own, so I won't really go into too much detail, but it kind of feels like there's a growing number of people influenced by those trolling VRChat players' videos who just come to VRChat to cause issues. And it feels like the only worlds that you can really enjoy anymore are actively group moderated or age restricted worlds, since it's a lot harder for trolls to be trolls. I've been going to the Trans Academy world for the past 5 months actively, and I'm telling you, these trolls are not original. They're repetitive, and they basically blend together. They're all one person. Most trolls are like rage baiters, concerned trollers, or they're just baiting for some kind of reaction. At least these take effort. At least these people put some effort into their annoyance, rather than the people just run around calling you slurs. Likely, moderation at TA is amazing, and I'm very grateful to the other volunteers who helped make the space so nice. I just love TA. This is like a personal opinion. I love TA. TA is a great space. You should come. Genuinely, VRChat has like helped me with my social anxiety. I'm still an introvert. Now I'm able to feel comfortable with reaching out to and talking to people I don't know. And obviously having the confidence to make a video talking about my experience. If you knew me a few years ago, you'd know how much I've changed. It definitely gave me a sense of belonging. When I started VRChat, I was super alone and super isolated, but now I've got a whole bunch of people that I'm over the moon to call my friends. and I have a space where I can express myself the way I want to. My friends help me get motivated to even start making these kinds of videos, so I still have a long way to go for self-improvement, but I'm getting there. But, you know, VRChat isn't all upsides, and I can't emphasize this enough. It can absolutely hurt your mental health, whether it be trolls getting to you, fallouts with relationships, or even escapism. For me, there's a point where I needed to escape my real life so badly, I started spending ungodly amounts of time in this game. It was so unhealthy, and it's really easy to start neglecting yourself if you don't play in moderation. I'd say the biggest differences between communities that I've visited are moderation. In most public lobbies, there's again 80% chance that you'll find someone running around yelling the n-word, calling people slurs, or just being some other kind of nuisance. I know I've gone over this, but in group moderated instance like the Trans Academy, when a moderator is around, the trolls are gone in minutes. The kind of environment you put yourself in really changes how you experience VRChat. It's really the difference between being able to relax and being on edge. And what definitely kept me coming back to VRChat was the people. Like I said, I've made amazing friends, and I'm so appreciative of them. So if you're watching this and you're one of my close friends, I love you. So this is really just the conclusion to my Yap session, but you should go out and try VRChat. You don't need a VR, but I highly recommend getting one, as it's a completely different experience to being on desktop. You can find yourself ungodly immersed in this game, and that's kind of how you get sucked into playing so much, because you're just so immersed and you can be having such a great time. It's hard to stop. Thank you for watching. I do plan on making more videos. It might not necessarily be trans related, but I do have something that I've had in the works for way too fucking long. I started it back in January, but it's nowhere near done. But yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good one. Bye bye.